receiving recording probably within the week or so. So just keep an eye on your inbox and you will be able to review this once again. So again, thank you so much for joining this evening. As you know, the workshop that we'll be discussing today and getting into is how to find a job in Canada. So I'll go ahead and just very quickly introduce myself. So my name is Tiffany. I have worked with Devant for a little over a year so far. A lot of the work that I do is employment and career counseling. So I've done this since I was in college, completing my practicum. So I've probably supported hundreds of clients at this point. So anything from resume reviews, interview preparation, and even just kind of having a chat together when it comes to motivation and job search. I know, after the holidays, to kind of, motivate yourself to get back into things, it might not always be the easiest. So even just having a conversation of, I keep getting rejections, I don't know what to do from here. I've always, had those check-ins to see how everyone is feeling and coping and what exactly we can do to support you throughout your journey. And then I will go it on and pass it on to my colleague.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. My name is Ahana. I have over 10 years of experience with working with job seekers and professionals with end-to-end, recruitment process. So I was working in a recruitment agency specializing in IT, telecom, and engineering. And so I've worked with, quite, I would say, at least interviewed over 1,000 people, interview prepped them. And I've been with Devant for over, I would say, 3, 4 years now. I've been very acquainted with them. So it's nice to meet everyone. I work currently, at Scotia, but I've been very passionate about assisting job seekers in kind of, fitting in the puzzle in the job market somewhere. So we're happy to help. Again, expertise is from job seeking to, your first day, right? So, yep, back to you, Tiffany.
Perfect. Thank you so much for sharing. So just a few house rules before we get started. So you all are muted at this time. If you do want to unmute, I believe we have the option to do so. But just let us know. You can always type in the chat. If you're someone who prefers to have video off, by all means, go right ahead. As you heard in the beginning of the session, it is being recorded, so you will have access to this. In terms of questions, we have the chat available, and you can also use the Q&A as well. So anything that comes up, you're more than welcome to ask away, and we will provide time at the end as well for any other questions you may think of. Future sessions, we will be sharing this link in the chat for you to be
Yep.
able to attend any other upcoming sessions that we will be hosting.
Yep. So I've shared 2 links for all the events with Devont and also all the services that are offered by Devont.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So just a little bit about Devant. So Devant has supported over 48,000 international students and newcomers to get hired in Canada. So it's free advice from career coaches and industry experts, the latest AI-driven tools to support you with your resume, your interview skills, and even doing research on the labor market. That's a huge part of the job search as well. So it's not just, going online and hitting easy apply. There's a lot of thought, time, and research that does go into this as well. And we also support with introductions to partners and employers to support you with either, when it comes to immigration, academic life, and career development. So, understanding the employer. So, as we know, the main goal of the employer is to make money and run a successful organization. So, when they are conducting their hiring, the goal is to find qualified candidates quickly and efficiently. So they're looking for the best candidate in terms of fit. So that could be, just looking at the chat, it could be from your technical skills, it could be from experience to culture. So all of the skills that you have on your highlights, your work responsibilities, all of that will make a difference in, whether or not you will be taken to that next step in the job search process. So, a few things we want to think about as we are submitting applications and putting ourselves out there for roles. Why should the employer hire you? How will the company benefit from having you as an employee, and what is in it for them? So, these are a few things to also keep in mind when you are giving an interview. Right? We really want to sell ourselves. I know sometimes it can be a little uncomfortable to kind of brag and boast about certain things, but that is what gets you hired. I know for certain fields, it's also very important to come with a portfolio to be able to properly showcase the skills and, the projects that you come with and what you're really capable of.
Yep. Just to add a point here, always think of who you are and what you can do for me. The minute you change where you're seated, so rather as a job seeker, as a hiring manager, just put yourself in their shoes and think of, like, if I was looking for this person, what are the things I would look for? What is the skill set I'd look for? It makes your job search a little more easier because the minute you understand that job description, half your battle is already won.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So sometimes their title also goes by talent acquisition. So some employers, they do use recruiters to find, screen, and interview applicants. So sometimes they outsource this person to do all of the digging, all of the searching to find the most ideal person for the role. So recruiters review resumes, they conduct job interviews, and then they are selecting the best employee for the position. And depending on the recruiter and the organization, they may also support with the onboarding process as well. So the main goal of the recruiter is to find the candidate with the best skills, experience, and personality to fit the job. So I have been in the field for a while now, I'm noticing that there are also lots of out of the box questions. You might notice, and before you hit submit, you might upload your resume, you might upload your cover letter, but there are a few questions that are also being asked before you hit submit as well. So please pay extra attention to those. Those are called knockout questions. So then I believe we might be chatting about that a little bit throughout the presentation, but just keep that in mind as well. What you type in those boxes before you hit submit is also very important. That when you check yes or when you check no, that also decides where your application is going. So I know someone says they have an audio problem. Ahana, are you able to hear me
Yes,
clearly?
yep,
Okay.
I'm able to hear you clearly.
Okay.
Maybe, Mo Cheng, you might want to rejoin. Sometimes that can be a problem, but I think I'm able to hear you fine.
Okay. Perfect. So we're just going to go over the hiring process in Canada. So if you're not already familiar with ATS, it stands for Applicant Tracking System. So before, back in the day, we used to print resumes. We used to go in person and submit a hard copy of a resume that we've worked on, used a template, printed off, and, we have the option of going in person to submit. Even cover letters were, a lot more popular in the past as well. However, now a lot of companies and businesses will tell you, we are hiring, but just go online and submit your application on there. So depending on the employer and the company, they may use something called ATS. So this is to make things a little bit easier on themselves. So from my understanding of ATS, whoever is in HR, they are in charge of basically deciding what is the most important, thing to them when they are looking to fill this role. What are their priorities? What skills, certifications, any types of designations that are required in order to do this role correctly? They will input those words into the software, and then any resume that hits those keywords will be making it to the next stage, and you might receive a phone call for a pre-screening. Um, the next stage is the recruiter scans and then the shortlisted resumes. So that is where, your resume has gone through the ATS, you've made it to the second round, and then the recruiter will be taking a little bit more of a refined look at your resume and then probably book you in for an interview. So I have had lots of clients come to me where they have had third round interviews. Ever so often, there may be a fourth round interview, depending on the types of roles that you're aiming for. And when it comes to interviews, one thing I will highly encourage you to do as well is even just going onto Google and typing in STAR method. So this is going to be really vital and key to your performance in your interview. It helps you have kind of like a method to your answers, and it keeps it concise and to the point.
So I do see we're getting questions asked. Tiffany, do you want to take them up now? You want to wait till the
Yeah,
end?
I don't mind taking them.
Taking them up? Okay. So the first question is, does status in Canada, like open work permit, impact the decision of the employer?
I would say yes. I know that in some organizations, they do look at the SIN number and they do take into account what it starts with. So does it start with the five? Does it start with the nine? And if your work permit is maybe going to expire or, something like that, they may not be hiring. They may not be more willing and open to hiring just because they're going to have to look again and over and over. So that is just from my experience, what I have noticed and what I've seen. So sometimes, unfortunately, the status does make a difference in the types of roles that you're able to obtain. Um,
It
mhm,
it also, just to add to what Tiffany's saying, it also matters when your work permit is expiring, right?
mhm,
Like, so
mhm.
I've had applicants, that they're expiring in 6 months or seven
Yeah,
months. That's too short of a time, right? In all honesty, but if it's expiring in like 2 years or 3 years or even in a year, right? That's still a little bit of there's still margin for the employer. Again, it has to be a win-win for both situations, right? It has to be a win for the employer as well, because they're going to invest in you, train you. But if you need that 1 year of work experience and at least they've invested in you, there is chances, right? But if it's too short, then it makes it very difficult.
absolutely.
Okay, and the second question is, I'm looking for a job, I'm not getting any call.
Yeah, I see that there's a follow-up question to that as well. So I'm a student, can
Can
work
work part.
part-time. So I'm not getting any calls and interviews. So if you're not, the way that I usually gauge where someone is in their job search process is if you're getting phone calls, if you're getting interviews, you're getting pre-screening assessments, that tells me that the resume is doing its job. It is taking you to that next stage in the process. So if you're noticing, well, I've been putting out so many applications consistently, I'm not getting one call, I'm getting just rejection after rejection, that lets me know that we may need to go back and revisit the resume. So are we tailoring to the best of our ability? So tailoring means taking a good look at the job description, taking a good look at our resume. When it comes to the summary and the highlights, are we updating that? When it comes to the work experience, are we updating this as well? And not only is it about the content, but it's about the formatting of the resume. Are the months and the years aligned? Are the bullet points aligned? Did you copy from ChatGPT and paste it into your resume and it's gray and it has a shadow and it's a different color? Those are the things that will also, unfortunately, remove you as a candidate before you even have a chance to present yourself.
Yeah, I mean, Chat GPT,
Mm.
is good, right? I'm not denying that, but
Yeah.
I think people tend to forget that, like I had an applicant just 2 days ago, had put in their resume, I'm detail oriented, and their resume was full of errors,
Yeah.
spelling mistakes. The resume was her and it was a him. So, use
Mhm.
these things wisely.
Yeah.
Um, don't try to play around with it, because that can get that wouldn't work in your favor, right? Next question, I'm available after 3:30 every day. So how many chances for me to get hired? Limit of part-time is up to 24 hours. I'm assuming that's per week.
Yeah. So, It again, it depends on the employer and the types of roles that you're aiming for. If your industry is, something that is open in the evenings, overnight, it's not the regular 9 to 5, then you may have an increased chance of securing employment. But yeah, the time restriction can definitely make a difference. Maybe you need to seek hybrid, maybe you need to seek remote. I am not sure what types of roles you're applying for, so that might make an impact as to if the employer is willing to accommodate.
Yep. I think we can probably take one last and then we'll move on. And then,
Okay.
guys, sorry, we'll have to hold off. I'm a student. Does an RA position count as work experience in Canada? What are the overall benefits?
So what is RA? What does RA stand for?
I'm assuming research assistant, but I could be wrong. So you guys got to correct us. But
Yes.
in the meanwhile, yes, it's a research
Okay,
assistant.
perfect. So I believe it does count as experience. If it is relevant and applies to the role that you're seeking, then yes. Um, so it is experience, but not only that, you will also be obtaining a reference. So maybe you have a good rapport or relationship with your supervisor, your manager, your coworker. When you're ready to seek your next opportunity, another way to look at this is that you have a reference that you can provide for future opportunities as well. So as long as we can properly explain what we were doing in the role, can we showcase our transferable skills? Then absolutely, it does count as experience overall. So we'll just go on to the fourth step here, which is background checks. So a lot of employers may request a police record check, but another background check that is just as important is your references. So if you do not have at least three solid references, maybe you think about a previous colleague, a coworker, maybe you volunteered somewhere. I would always aim for you to have at least three references who are ready to advocate for you, who are ready to vouch for you, say amazing things about you. They understand the type of work and person that you are, and they have an updated copy of your resume. So, over the holidays, right before we went off for break, one of the things I was doing was encouraging all of my clients to touch base with their references, wish them a happy holidays, wish them happy New Year's. It's an important step of the job search process is having references because, you've done the work to find the job. You've done the work to update your resume. You've done the work to do the interview. And now at the last second, we do not want to be scrambling to find references because that will, not it will not maybe reflect too well on you. So the sooner we have these references, we're ready to go, the better. And now, after all of that, we're hoping you receive an offer of employment. So, when it comes to an offer of employment, especially, I've noticed in the last few weeks, there's been an increase of scams. So, if you have not completed an interview somewhere, please do not accept a job that is work from home 20 hours a week, $50 an hour. Please do your research. Pay extra special attention to the types of emails that you're receiving, the types of calls that you're receiving. I've had people who provide their bank details thinking the employer has to send them some money or you have to send them money. None of that is correct. So please, do your research. If you're unsure, ask someone. Go onto Glassdoor, go onto Google, try to do your research to understand, is this a legitimate offer or not? And then lastly, we have your onboarding. So maybe a week, maybe a month, you'll be in training, you'll be doing lots of reading, lots of manuals, additional paperwork as well. So hopefully after that, you will be ready to start your new job. Okay, so popular job boards in Canada. So please feel free to type in the chat. Which job boards have you used in your job search? What are the most popular common ones that you've been using? So we have someone who said Indeed. Perfect. LinkedIn, Job Bank, yep. Monster, yep. Monster, LinkedIn, Job Bank, Out Campus Connect. I'm not familiar with that one. ZipRecruiter, that's also good. Perfect. Yeah, so LinkedIn, Indeed, and are definitely two of the most popular ones. I am a huge advocate for LinkedIn as well. Perfect. Okay, so thank you so much for those who shared in the chat. So these are a few different job boards as well. You're more than welcome to, yeah, it says in the corner there, take a screenshot, take a picture, and you can always go back and add these in your rotation as well. I know for Indeed and LinkedIn, one of the things I enjoy about those two platforms is the option to sign up for job alerts. So depending on your field and your background, you may notice that your job can go by many different titles. They all fall under the same umbrella. The responsibilities are all the same, but it might go by a different title. So one thing I would encourage you to do is when we are signing up for job alerts to sign up for the keywords versus the job title itself. So for example, if you are someone who wants to be a data analyst, everyone is going onto LinkedIn and typing in data analyst. Maybe we want to sign up for keywords like SQL, Python, Power BI. Those are going to really make a difference in your job search, and you'll notice yourself. Not every employer uses those traditional titles, and then you end up missing out on these opportunities because of the um, just not using the correct title. So make sure you sign up for those job alerts. It's definitely going to make a difference. So let's head over to LinkedIn. I'm going to show you one way that is really helpful to do searches when you are reaching out to other people as well. So just give me one quick second. Let me pull this up. Okay. So I will ask for someone to please share with me um, a job title. So if anyone is looking for a specific type of role, they would,
HVAC,
okay, we'll
we've
go with
got HVAC,
we'll just
lab
go with web
technician, web
developer,
developer. Yep, let's go with web developer.
web developer. So I will just go and type this in. And I know a lot of you mentioned the school that you're attending as well. So just keep that in mind as well. So you've typed in your job. One thing that I like to do is go to people, and we will go to all filters, and you can basically minimize your search even further and further, because right now there's like 2 million, nearly 3 million people on LinkedIn. That's way too much for you to connect with. It's way too much for you to look into and research. So we are within Ontario. Maybe you're willing to relocate within Ontario. Amazing. And then you can also add in the school as well. So for example, let's go with Humber College. So anyone who works as a web developer who lives in Ontario who attended Humber College, and then we'll do show results, and then it has gone down to 2,600. So we do have the option of, depending on the type of work that you're looking for, to add more filters. Um, so one way to kind of navigate and begin this conversation is to introduce yourself and say, my name is Tiffany. I'm currently attending Humber College. I see that you have graduated from here. I'm seeking a role in web development. I'd love to have a chat with you one day, so on and so forth. Of course, you will word it differently depending on your background and the type of person that you are. You can use ChatGPT as a support if you are, struggling maybe to come up with the correct way to send a message to a recruiter or someone who you are hoping to network with. So I will just go back to the slideshow. Maybe we can answer a few questions as
Yes,
well.
sure. So the first question we have here is, oops, one second. Okay, what is the scope of employment in the film industry or television industry in the production department?
So the scope of employment in the film industry, honestly, I would have to do a bit of research on that myself. A lot of the work that I do is mostly with data analysts or aspiring data analysts.
Right.
So I will have to probably look into that myself, to be honest, to have an understanding of what is in demand in that field because there are many different titles in the film production industry, I'm assuming.
Yep.
So I would have to really tailor it down a bit more to gain a better understanding.
So, just to add to what Tiffany's saying, maybe I can offer a different spin on it.
Mhm.
So, I think there is a lot of network and research that will need to go, right? This is not like your traditional way of you're going on Scotia's website or TD's website and applying for jobs. So, pulling out a list of the production companies in Toronto, and then they have their offices in downtown Toronto by Lakeshore. The studios are there, right? So, definitely using LinkedIn for your sort of the right way, connecting with people. But first step would be recognizing which production companies are there, right? So even in the media, if you choose to go there, there is, so with all these shows coming on, web shows and all of that, there is definitely that scope. It's a hidden job market for sure, because a lot of networking happens, and that's how a lot of people get hired. So definitely look into volunteering at the Toronto Film Festival. That's a good starting step, because you get to meet people from the industry, right? So something to kind of, it's just about opening, not doing the traditional way, but a different approach will have to be taken for that role. Second question is, if I'm looking job for first time, who do I add as a reference?
Yeah, that's definitely a good question. So in terms of references, I would say, do you have any professors from your program that you have attended? Is there any instructors that can say something positive? Have you volunteered anywhere in the past? And if not, is that something you would consider doing to not only add something recent and current to your resume, but to also have a reference as well? So I have a volunteer opportunity that I had done and I'm still doing on my resume. And I do have my supervisor on there that I have as a reference if needed. So it really depends. We do want to, it's good that you're asking these questions and thinking about it in advance, but usually employers, they do ask for three. So just keep that in mind as you're job searching and interviewing, that that is a part of the process, and we want to be able to provide this to the employer.
Okay, so I think in the essence of time, let's finish this session first, and we'll take. I know that we have
Perfect.
about 3, 4 questions more, but a quick request for those who are asking for resume, reviews, interview skills review, all of that. We have career coaches for that. I've provided the link at the very beginning of this chat, so please do go on Devon's website, look at the career coaches there, and they are there to assist you one on one, because of course everyone's coming from different background with different questions. So we have so please do go on that and register yourself, because it'll be tough to kind of do it now. All right. Okay.
Perfect.
All right, Tiffany.
So please feel free to type in the chat, what percentage of available positions are filled by someone hiring in the hiring manager or recruiters network. So what do we think here? What percentage of available positions are filled by someone in the hiring manager or recruiter's network? So this could be through like a referral, word of mouth. So we said 30%, 90, 50, 80. So these are definitely some good guesses. Some of you are really close. So it is actually 85%. So there, someone said 50, someone said 90, so it's 85%. So 85% of available positions are filled by someone in the hiring manager or recruiter's network. So I will go ahead and share a personal story about how I got hired at Empower Canada. So I had a colleague I worked with a few years ago prior to joining this organization. And it had been a while since we had last spoke, but it felt very awkward to reach out after so long. But I noticed that the company was hiring. Thankfully, she was able to refer me to the recruiter. I had a little bit of a coffee chat and applied. And I definitely, I know that my application was flagged and it did support me in obtaining employment. So I promise I'm not saying this for the sake of the workshop. It is something that actually works. So stay in contact with your colleagues, stay in contact with your peers. You never know where they might be hired or working and how it will be able to support you and benefit you in the long run. So when we say networking, we don't mean, add me on LinkedIn and, you're going to help me get a job the next day. It's something that takes time. Networking is a long-term process. So I have a certain people I stay in contact with every single year because I've had my eyes on a certain role or an organization and I'm just waiting for the right timing to be able to, apply and leverage that contact that I have.
Yeah, just to add on that quickly, Tiffany, I'll also share a quick story, a different spin on networking, right?
Mm-hmm.
While I was working, when I was in my recruitment industry, at that time, I had received a call from this new graduate.
Mm-hmm.
We had won the best managed, we were on the top 100 best managed company awards. So she had picked up a business magazine, found that name of the company, found the number, called, and wanted to speak to HR. I answered, and all she said was, I just called to congratulate you guys because I read about the organization and I was very impressed. And I noticed that you guys won the award. And I was taken back. I wasn't expecting that. Some stranger just calling to congratulate us. And I asked her, like, what do you do? Blah, blah, blah. And she told me she was recently graduated from, HR. And I said, okay, why don't we meet up for coffee? She showed up the next day. Mind you, I don't have a job for her. I'm just meeting her like that. She came all the way from Mississauga to Richmond Hill. We met over coffee. She told me what skills she had, what she did, and honestly, within, I think, probably a 1.5 hour chat, we
Mm-hmm.
agreed that I had a 3 to 6 months contract job for her, which eventually turned into full time. So
Wow.
again, saying that, yes, that's one spin on network. Your network is your net worth.
Yes.
So, but quality over quantity, guys, like that doesn't mean you just go keep adding everybody and connect. No, it's about connecting with the right people, irrespective of the job title they might have. So don't only look for, okay, I'm only going to look into talent acquisition, or only director, or only manager. If you're a web developer, communicate with a fellow web developer and just get to know what's out there in the market, because you haven't entered the market as yet. So, different spin on networking, but definitely, uh, it's your personality as well, right? That takes
Yeah.
you a long way.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. It's really helpful to hear these stories and know that, we don't say networking for fun or for the sake of
Yes.
the Vaughns and the workshops. We preach
Yes.
about this because it's something we honestly believe and
Yeah.
we've seen it live, how we can benefit someone. And, thank goodness I have a job today because I decided to send a message. I decided to network. I decided to have a conversation with someone. And
Yep.
thankfully, I'm employed due to that. So it really
Yeah.
does make a big difference.
Because skills can be taught, right? Your personality
Yeah.
cannot be
Mm-hmm,
changed. So
mm-hmm,
that's why, be who you are. And there is something out there for everyone. It's just
mm,
a matter of time, and it's just a matter about taking that puzzle in the, fixing that,
exactly.
fitting in that picture puzzle. But okay, let's continue with this.
Exactly. Yeah, and one quick thing I wanted to add in there too is even the ability to be able to partake in small talk, right? Someone picked, someone asked, "How are you?" "I'm good. How are you?" Right? It's not just "I'm good." "How was your weekend?" "Good." How was your week?" "Good." So we want to share something about ourselves. Maybe you watched an interesting Bollywood movie over the weekend and you want to share it. Maybe there's a new song you can't stop listening to. Maybe you read a really good book or tried a new recipe out, right? These are the things people like to hear and chat about, and you're
Mhm.
getting to know them a bit more. You're building a rapport as well. So please, always feel free to share a little bit about yourself, ask the right questions, practice active listening. That will all, it's all part of networking as well.
Yep.
Perfect there. So yeah, as the slide says, networking is a crucial part of your job search, especially now where certain markets are saturated and very competitive. So LinkedIn and informational interviews. So those are the two things that I would try to focus on a bit more. If I notice maybe that's not where I'm strongest, I would try to focus a little bit more on, building my confidence in that area. So just a very quick recap. So we have reviewed the hiring process in Canada. That's where we reviewed the many steps from ATS to onboarding. We took a look at some of the popular job boards in Canada. If you were not able to get a screenshot or take a picture of the slide, please let me know and I will go back. And then lastly, one of the most important parts I find about the presentation tonight is the importance of networking as well. So I hope that were able to benefit and take something away tonight. So let's get back into some of the
Perfect.
questions.
Okay, let's start this. So I have never been interviewed before. I always feel nervous whenever I have interview. How do I overcome that?
That is a wonderful question. I also have really bad nerves. It doesn't, even though I support other people with doing well in interviews, when it comes to myself, I'd rather, just please give me the job, let me start, and I'll show you I can do it rather than doing an interview. So, one thing that always helps me, and one thing I always say, is that we are our hardest critics. There's no one that's going to be harder on ourselves than us. So, one thing that I do, and it can be a bit awkward, is to just set up your camera, set up your phone in front of yourself, and take a video of yourself answering these questions, right? Again, you can use ChatGPT, you can upload the job description in there and ask ChatGPT to create questions for you. Put your camera in front of you, hit record, and answer these questions. Once you've done that, go back and look at the footage. Pay attention to body language, eye contact, filler words. Are we using lots of uhs and ums? And, what does it sound like when we do this?
Yep.
Okay, I
Okay,
thought
so
you had
oh,
something.
sorry. Yeah, yeah. No, I was going to add something. So, just to add to that, I think what I was going to say is having your own interview manual. I recommend that to everybody, and I have one personally myself too. But adding to what Tiffany said, right? You have that Chat GPT, you get the questions, take those questions and put them on a Word document, have a manual that you can reference to before interviews. Any new question that you're asked, put it back. It's like your master file. Now, before you go give an exam, the more you've practiced, the more it'll come out naturally,
Mhm,
right?
mhm,
It will flow out of, easily, right? All these and all of these nervousness comes because we're not always prepared. We're not always confident, right? So yes, we want the job, but we're also confident of our skills, who we are, what we can do. And we know we've been in situations, and if we've not been in situations, we have ways of answering that we've already practiced with, right? So definitely I recommend everyone to have one for themselves, just because that helps, bring in that confidence, and confidence is key. Okay, next question. um okay, so I've been getting some interview calls from recruiters to send my resume to the hiring manager, but after that they won't call back. While doing the phone interview, I know I did pretty good, but still not able to get the interview.
So that's definitely a bit frustrating, and I hear that quite a bit, right? The ghosting from the recruiters. So it is something that is unfortunate. I would try my best to obtain contact information. Maybe there's a phone number or an email address, follow up, and kind of gauge the situation. Maybe the job posting was available on the page and now it's been taken down. A lot of the times I find with my clients is that the employer may be hiring for a role, but last minute it gets canceled. They're no longer looking to fill the role, funding changes last minute. And as unfortunate as it is just one of those things that happens, right? We all get ghosted. And I'm probably still waiting to hear back from a few jobs I've applied for years ago. So again, it is unfortunate, but it is one of those things that is a part of the process.
Okay. LinkedIn Premium for effective job search. Do we need one?
Absolutely not. If we're already in a situation where, we may be job searching, of course it means we need more money. We're trying to save a little bit in this economy. We have groceries to purchase, we have bills to pay. So I would not want anyone to be spending $50 a month on LinkedIn Premium. Uh, there are a few benefits, I would say, but the regular good old LinkedIn is just as effective, is just as useful. Ensure that you have a complete and up-to-date LinkedIn profile. So what that means is a professional picture. You're not using your passport picture. You're taking a picture behind a blank wall. Maybe you're smiling, you're wearing a dress shirt, a professional outfit. You have picked a banner, you have a strong headline, a beautiful summary. So, having a strong profile and all of the fields completed is just as effective. So, yes, you can create your profile, but make sure you're liking posts, make sure you're commenting. Are you posting on there? So, all of that will help drive engagement to your page. And then, even the open to work. You might even have recruiters reaching out to you because of what you have in your profile. You're the most ideal candidate for a role that they are looking to fill.
Perfect. Next question. I have only one question. I've been in Canada for 3 years. I've done health administration and human resources. I don't have a problem getting part time jobs like Walmart, fast food. I'm able to get interviews. The only problem is I don't get the job because I don't have the experience.
Yeah, so that's definitely common. You have the certifications, you have the education, but then when it comes to the experience, that might be a bit of an issue, right? And it's, well, how am I supposed to get experience if no one is going to hire me? So that is where the importance of tailoring comes in. That's where the importance of transferable skills come in. Are you able to take what you've learned in your previous roles and apply it to what you're learning and interested in? That's where networking comes in as well, right? So maybe you may not be, maybe you don't have those official titles on your resume, but there's someone who knows you well enough and knows what you're capable of and can vouch to you to HR, who can say, "Hey, Anna, can you please take a look at this person? I've spoken to them. They're really skilled. They're really hardworking. At least give them an interview." And then that will actually make a difference in your job search process.
Okay. There, I've got at least two questions. What would be a best platform to create an ATS friendly resume? I already answered that. It's jobscan.co. That helps you with comparison of resumes. But any other, Tiffany, that you can think of?
Um, Not necessarily. I know if you have access to the Devon platform, there's a resume builder on there as well.
Right.
So hopefully you have a login and you can also take advantage of that as well.
Yep.
And
Um,
sorry, even just running it through JobScan. So you take your resume, you take the job description, and
mhm.
then JobScan will generate a match rate for you. So I always encourage a match rate of at least 70 to 80%. So JobScan only gives you 5 attempts before they ask you to pay. And again, I don't want anyone to pay for anything. But after some time of having your account, they do kind of like refill those scans again. So take a look at that and hopefully it will support in tailoring.
Yep. Okay. In the IT industry, is it okay to switch to a different domain after gaining 5 years of experience? For example, from support role to developer role.
I definitely think it's okay to switch. I
Yeah.
encourage it. Try something else out. Take your skills, see where you can, apply them. Is this, developer role gonna result in a higher salary? By all means, go right ahead.
Yep, and then it also falls under the SDLC life cycle, right? So you are pretty much part of the software development life cycle. So you start with support, you're getting to developer, then you might do PMP, it's end.
Yeah.
So it's endless. So you have to aim for the stars. Okay, how effective is the modification in resume according to the jobs that I'm applying for? It's important.
Yes, it's definitely important. I would say, if what you have been doing for the past few months is not giving you any results, it's time to revisit. And it starts with the resume, right? That is like your first impression that the employer has of you. And if it's not strong enough, it's not even going to make it to the employer. It's not even going to make it to the recruiter. The ATS will just say, it doesn't have what I'm looking for. There are not enough keywords. Let's move on to the next applicant. So, yeah, the resume, the tailoring, it is a bit of extra work, I will be honest. But if that means maybe, instead of 30 applications a week, you're submitting 20 applications, but you're taking more time to tailor, then again, like Ahana had mentioned earlier, quality over quantity. So yes, that means with LinkedIn connections as well as your resumes. So I would rather you submit maybe a little bit less as long as you're taking that time to focus on quality resumes.
Okay, so some of the one or two questions got missed because they were asked in the chat. So, Karanpreet asked, I'm in the first semester of construction techniques in Mohawk. I will complete my trade program in August 2025. What is the scope of construction techniques? So, you want to take that, Tiffany, or I can just add?
You can take that one if
You
you
want to?
or
Yeah,
no.
sure. Um, yeah, because it's a little tricky field. Construction technique is, if you need, so again, research, right? Just saying construction techniques, are there licenses? Is AutoCAD required in it? What exactly component? Because I have worked in recruited for that field. So exactly what are you looking for, right? It's does it require certifications? If not, what is the job market size? Which companies are there that are recruiting for that, right? So if you're looking into the private, you know companies, small to medium sized companies that are working in construction, that's a different story. But if you're looking for the big ones, there is that research required of, to are there any licenses required? Is, if yes, how can I get those licenses? And again, those are networks that might not necessarily be on LinkedIn. So again, some network offline will have to take place. You'll have to connect with companies and organizations. So again, knowing the companies that you're targeting.
Thank you.
Okay, all right. So when applying to a job, is it necessary to present documentations of past jobs we work in our country with or with resume details is enough? So I'm
So in terms of documentation, I would say whatever you present on your resume is enough. Um, I haven't seen anyone who has had to provide proof of employment at a company. Usually, you are able to confirm if a candidate has worked somewhere or not by phoning references once you've reached that stage. So, I believe as long as you have something on your resume and maybe you're providing a supervisor or a manager from that role as a reference, you should be good to go.
perfect. I always get stuck on what to say after thank you for connecting on LinkedIn.
Yeah, it
The fun one.
definitely, yeah. So after you say thank you for connecting, is this an invite to someone that like, did you send an invite to this person? And if you did, what was your intention with that? What were you hoping to gain out of this? Were they working at a certain company? Did they attend a certain institution? Do they have a certification you're interested in? So I would definitely try to think a little bit further, like, why am I even connected with this person to begin with?
Yep.
And again, people like to talk about themselves, right? So always bring it back to the person, and they will be more than happy to share why they started a certain job, why they attended a certain institution. So just make sure that, you always bring it back to them. You ask them questions to show that you're interested, and that will really support you, with those conversations through LinkedIn.
Yep. I mean, normally what I recommend is when you send that invite,
Mhm.
you know, hi, Ahana, hope you're doing well. I'm a
Mhm.
recent graduate of, Lambton College, and I noticed that you went to this college or you are working in this organization. Or you are in the same field as I am graduating for. I would request a quick 5-minute chat, if possible, or if I can ask my questions here, just to further gain any industry knowledge as to how the market is. I'd really appreciate, your 5 minutes, and some one liner to kind of say why you're even connecting, right? It's not about just click connect and then forget about it, right? So just some value there.
Yeah.
Okay. Next question is, do Canadian employers take into consideration of Indian educational degree which were WES evaluated?
Yeah, so I definitely, if you are able to complete that process of getting your credentials evaluated, by all means, it's something that I highly encourage. If you can, put what the education is equivalent to in Canada, it always helps, right? It always helps employers to understand. And honestly, with references, I mean, sorry, with resumes that I have reviewed, it helps me to kind of gauge and understand, okay, well, this is what they may have learned back home, and this is what it is equal to here. Again, it is a lengthy process. It is an heavy admin oriented task to get your credentials assessed. So if you do have the extra time, the extra money, I mean, go right ahead. But again, it's not something that I've seen make too much of a standout
Yeah, you're
difference.
right. We
Honest.
we haven't. So I've been in that
Yeah.
position too, but we haven't seen a lot. And I personally don't like, on the same page as Tiffany, like don't encourage it as much, because either
Yeah.
way, when you get hired, your degree will be, there is educational, criminal, and credit check if applicable, and references, right? So that will automatically take place. So your degree, will be evaluated as
Ex-
to, where you
Exactly.
all of that validated, right? So
Yeah.
really, you going through the WS process, it doesn't really, because again,
Yeah.
keep in mind, it's very, this industry, or where, we're in Canada, it's more skill based too, right? It's so what, your technical skills or your knowledge, right? So really what you studied is there, it's important as well. But your tech, especially from back home, I'm not talking about studying here, but back
Mhm.
home, just try to, it'll anyways be validated in your job search process.
Absolutely, yeah. But that's a good question. I've never seen, it's very rare that someone asks about Wes and getting their credentials
Yep.
assessed. So yeah, thank you for thinking and asking that question.
Okay, are there a lot of marketing jobs available in the market?
That is a good question. I guess we will have to do some research on that and look into that. So when we say marketing, tons of different job titles run through my head as we think that. So maybe you need to go on to StatsCan. That's another one, right? That's a very popular website for doing research on the market.
Yep.
Um, and then next, is it necessary to make
To make resume in one page.
one page? So if you are a working professional, and again, when it comes to resumes, everyone has a bias. I have a bias. Ahana might look at a resume and say, well, I actually like when it looks this way. Maybe
Yep.
you have a family friend or a cousin or a partner, and they're saying, no, your resume needs to look this way. So everyone has a bias when it comes to resumes. I will say, as if you are a working professional, you have years of experience under your belt, you've gone to post-secondary, I usually encourage two-page resumes. Um, Once you think of your headline, your summary, maybe one or two jobs, you're kind of already on the second page already. So yeah, 2 pages is my max, I would
Yep.
say. Yeah, 2 pages.
Okay, in the essence of time, I think we have one last question, no more
Yes.
questions. But I have switched my career after coming to Canada, so my work experience from back home will not be much relevant. In that case, how easy will it be to find a job here?
Honestly, even people with experience are still facing some
Yeah.
barriers when it comes to securing employment. So Honestly, yes, submitting strong quality applications is a part of the process, but a few other things that we touched on tonight are just as important. So the ability to network, the ability to have a conversation, make small talk, volunteer. Do you have three references? So all of that is kind of, it all falls under the job search umbrella.
Okay, fresher, how long should the resume be?
If you're at one page, fine. If maybe you've only had one job and you're just starting off, you've gone to one institution, you have one diploma, degree, or certificate, then it might
Yep.
be possible that we're at one page. But
Hmm.
if you have a few years of experience and you've worked at a few different organizations, then definitely we're looking at 2 pages.
Yes.
So we have about 2 minutes left. So very quickly, please continue to join our workshops and events. Next week is already January 22nd. So there's a career coach QA session. So that session is basically you can ask any questions that you want that are job search related. So those are really great to attend as well. If you feel I had a few more questions and we were not able to get to them, please make sure that you're there next week. On the 29th, it's research and communication with employers. Ask a recruiter for the next for Wednesday, February 5th as well. So I think Ahana had also shared the link in the chat
Yes.
when it comes to getting set up with these workshops.
Yep.
So get hired at home. So I believe they might be posting about this soon, but of course it will be for 2025. So just keep your eye on your inbox and the website on how to get started and set up with that. So this is just someone who had gone through the process of one of our events and who was thankfully able to secure and find employment. Lastly, if you would like to meet with either one of us or any one of our coaches, you are more than welcome to do so. I just want to put in here very quickly that if you are a student at a college or university, you may already have access to career coaching from your college or university or whichever institution you're attending. This may already be included as a part of your tuition. So please make sure you've exhausted those options first before you go and pay Devont for the same thing, basically. But yeah, if you want to meet with us, you're more than welcome to book a meeting and we can get a little bit more in depth as to how we may support you.
Yep.
And that is all. Thank you so much for everyone who attended tonight. I hope that you learned something new. And good luck in your job search.
Yes, definitely. Good luck to everyone, and hope to cross paths at some point.
Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye
Have a good
bye.
week. Bye.
Bye.